What's up, guys? So today we're talking about the Gerber Flatiron yet again. So this is the redemption version, the second generation version. If you haven't seen my first video, I hated this knife, absolutely hated it. Even titled the video "Worst Knife of 2018." And it was mostly just because I couldn't use the thing. It was so uncomfortable. Uncomfortable to open, uncomfortable to unlock, uncomfortable to actually hold and squeeze and use. But when I made that video, I was told by a couple people that they changed the design. Gerber knew of some of these mistakes that they've made with this design, some of the errors, and actually changed the design. However, they didn't call it the Flatiron 2. They didn't change the name to, I don't know, the Gerber skillet. They just kept it as the Flatiron, all right? But they did do some changes to it, which totally changes the knife, all right? It makes it much more functional. So the first question you may have is, if you're interested in this knife, how are you going to know if it's the old version or the new one? Well, this could be a problem if you shop online at some places that use stock images. It's very possible that a dealer or maybe a place like eBay or an Amazon seller or something might have a stock photo of the original Gerber Flatiron. However, they're actually selling the second version of it. That's where things get a little bit tricky. So if you can, get an actual picture of the knife before buying it, of course, if that's possible. But there are a couple of visual things you can go by. So this is the newer version, all right? There's two things right off the bat that you'll be able to recognize compared to the old one. The first one is the Gerber logo is on the right side of the opening notch, let's call that, or cutout, all right? On the original version, it was on the left side. Not only was on the left side, but the actual cutout was a lot closer to the pivot. All right, so there was a huge heavy detent on this knife, so it's very hard to pull out. But not only that, this opening was way up here. So the closer you go to the pivot, okay, that's where the blade actually rotates around the handle. This is the pivot. Now, the further you are away from the pivot, the easier it is to rotate around it. All right, so if you have an opening slot that's really close to the pivot, it takes more pressure to open it. All right, you could try this with any knife. Open your knife, all right, slowly with whatever it is, a thumb stud, a disc, an opening hole, whatever. And then if the blade's accessible enough, like this one, grab it down here and open it. You'll feel far less resistance because you're very far away from that pivot. All right, so by moving this opening hole down, they already made it easier, but then obviously swapped out whatever the original design was for the detent, because the detent was very hard to overcome. Now, even though they changed the detent on here, it's not going to accidentally open, okay? There's still plenty of pressure there to keep it closed in the pocket, all right? But it is very easy compared to the original one. It was like impossible. It was seriously, it wasn't even a one-handed knife. I had to use two hands to actually open it. So yeah, visually, we have the opening cutout here, further away from the pivot. Also, the logo is on the right. But the biggest thing, if you happen to get an image of the back, they completely changed the design here. They put a huge plate, and this is for the lock bar, because this is a frame lock, as you can see, and that's for over travel, all right? So when you push the frame lock over, it stops, as opposed to allowing it to continue and maybe bend out of shape. On the original, it just had a small circle lock bar stabilizer, I guess you would call it. I believe Rick Hinder was the original creator of that system, but of course it's adopted by a lot of different knife companies. But instead of that tiny little circle one, they went with this totally different design with this huge plate. I think this looks really cool. I have no idea why. Maybe it's industrial, who knows? I think it looks nice, but it does actually function exactly how you would imagine. You can actually hear it. When you go to unlock that, the lock bar stops there. Okay, so it does not have any kind of over travel. But that is obviously a very simple visual indicator as to whether you have a newer version or one of the very difficult to open, uncomfortable original versions. As far as the pocket clip, that's exactly the same. On this one, just got this today in a trade, because I was actually waiting a while to get one of these. And I kind of wish I saved one of my original Flatirons, because I had two of them. I had two of them I got in trade because people hated them. I held on to one of them for a while with the intention of getting this, but no one ever offered a newer one in trade. So it was like maybe a month ago or so that I traded the other one off. And then about a week ago, someone offered me this one. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely got to try this, the newer version. So like I said, I wish I could do a side-by-side, but you can reference the first video, or you can just Google it to see some stock images. So anyway, going back to the pocket clip, this little stubby clip does work totally fine. Not the best design out there. I happen to be wearing some jogger pants today, and this slipped in and out very easily. I do like this little, leather lanyard that was put on here by the previous owner. Of course, that does not come with it. But yeah, something else I noticed, and this is not like a huge hit or anything, and I did not notice this on the first one. If you have one of the original ones, of course, you can let me know if it's the same or not. But this top scale, if I zoom in here, all right, you can see, again, it's a frame lock. So we have a metal side here. We have a second metal side on the top with these standoffs. It's an open frame design. But then on top of that, there's like this, top handle scale. Okay, this is a separate piece. It's a thin metal piece from the actual frame. This scale that's on top doesn't really match up with the shape of the frame. Like right here, you can see there's a high point. It's definitely a little bit longer. All right, and then right here, there's kind of a subtle peak, and it's kind of off to the side a little bit. It's kind of even in some areas. Like I said, this is a high point where it's definitely bigger. As I come on to the top here, maybe you guys can see that. Let me shut the blade here. You can see it overhangs on top here as well. Okay, it just literally doesn't line up. It's like kind of the shape, but not really. I don't know. It's kind of a cheap thing. Something I happened to notice when I was playing around with this. Doesn't affect how it feels at all, really. Back this zoom out. In gripping this knife, it's fine. It's not as bad as it was before. The little jimping that's on the inside of the lock bar, it is kind of aggressive, okay, which is supposed to be aggressive in this case so that when you're going to unlock the knife, you don't miss it. You want to have some traction there. However, when you're squeezing the knife and using it, you feel those little serrations that are in there, okay, in your pointer finger. And again, just because this is overlapping just a little bit here, that top scale, I feel that on the middle finger, okay, just when gripping this. Now, even though I really like this one a lot better than the original because it's actually usable, it's not like a great knife to use overall. There's tons of knives in its price range that are much better for actual performance and stuff. But it's a little bit more unique, with that straight razor style blade. It just looks really cool. It's just a really fun knife to have. I was so disappointed with the first one because I really, really wanted to get one. And when I got it in hand, I was so disappointed on how uncomfortable it was and literally unusable it was. Okay, it was designed to be one-hand opening, and I just couldn't do it comfortably at all. Anyway, I want to do an update on this knife now that I had the opportunity to try the newer version, the revised version. Again, this was just to get some information out there. If you happen to be interested in this knife, and you wanted a usable one, I would recommend this version over the original. And again, very simple visual things you can see is the opening cutout is further down when it's closed like this, okay, or further away from the pivot. And then the logo is to the right of it as opposed to the left on the original. And then of course, again, if you happen to get a shot of the back, this massive, lock bar stabilizer plate, I guess we call it, is very different than the original little circle that was right there. That's pretty much it. Just wanted to get this video out there for the additional information and kind of the update on this knife. Again, it's not a great user knife at all, but this one will stay in my collection for a while. Like I said, I kind of like the design overall. It's a really fun knife, and obviously now it has a little bit of a story. So that's it. Let me know down in the comment section if you have and or use the Gerber Flatiron, and if you had the opportunity to try both versions. Let me know what you think. But that first one was it was rough around the edges. I have no idea how that made it out the door into boxes for people to buy. But I am very happy to see that they resolved these problems, and now we have a functional knife. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.